welcome once again to Voices from the Macabre. I am your host, Dr. Johnny Fear. These stories have been written by staff or submitted by our listening audience. Please continue to listen at your own risk. Are you still there? Then let us begin. Welcome to tonight's episode, The New Home.
This happened when I was in my mid-20s. It was one of those normal days. I was sitting in the balcony of my new wooden house in a suburban area. The wild wind blew and made me shiver. I went inside and locked the door. My mother was a nurse, and on that day she had a night shift. I lit up the fireplace and started reading. I was so deep in a book that it didn't come to my attention that the clock had already struck 2 a.m. I was almost at the end of the chapter, and it was only about a 15-minute read. So I thought that I should wrap that up at least before going to bed. Then, in the dead silence all around the house, I heard footsteps. I thought it was my mum, so I called her. "I'm here, Mum." I didn't get any reply. As soon as I stood up, the lights went out and left a pale yellowish afterglow. I could only see the fireplace. I searched for the flashlight, and as I was looking into the drawers, I felt someone's presence in the house. Luckily, I found it. As I went to look around, I saw the door was slightly opened, and an icy wind was making it swing. I was absolutely sure that I locked it from the inside. I became scared out of my wits. Hello? Hello? Anyone would have recognized the fear of the unknown in my voice. With a shaking hand, I directed the beam of my flashlight around the front yard. I wasn't able to see anything except a huge snowstorm, and maybe that's why the power went out. The scene was so dark and intense. It looked like the blustery wind would destroy everything. I quickly closed and locked the door. I started to feel fearfully alone that night, like the only human being on the entire planet with this frosty wind. I tried to call Mum, but my phone had no signal. The phone company hadn't installed the landline yet, and this now really upset me. Tired and frustrated, I fell asleep. A few hours later, I woke up to a sound. It was coming from the attic, like someone dragging something slowly but surely. I turned on the flashlight and the sound stopped. I turned it off, and after a few minutes, I heard someone murmur in a weird manner. I followed the sound, and it was definitely coming from the attic. Nobody has been to the attic since we bought this house a few days back. I remember it smelled awful up there. I got up and adjusted the ladder to see what was creating the noise up there. I was nervous, but managed to climb up. I pushed the attic door inwards, but just as I was about to pull myself in, something rushed towards me with the speed of light and stopped right in front of my face. It lifted its head and began to stare at me with those dark, hollowed eyes. It was huge, with numerous disfigured bones and skin like a reptile peeling away. The figure was terrifically disgusting, like nothing I had seen before. He has very large, wide fingers and extremely thin nails. His mouth hung open and I could feel the nasty smell of dead rats and animals which he must have eaten. I couldn't take a breath. I was frozen and paralyzed in fear. My heart started to faint because of the terror and darkness around me. I wasn't able to see anything, except for his hollow eyes and the gargantuan figure that was sucking the life out of me. I fell off the ladder and lost consciousness. I don't remember what happened after that. When I regained consciousness, I was in the hospital with my mother and a broken leg. My mum had an inspector check the attic, but he could find no signs of anyone being up there, and he said there was no smell of dead animal there either. I was deeply disturbed and still traumatized by what happened that night. Needless to say, we moved away from that house. I still haven't slept in peace a single night since that incident.
You have been listening to Voices from the Macabre. Please subscribe and like our channel, or we will haunt your dreams. Are you still there? Then go visit voicesfromthemacabre.com and tell us your darkest fears. Until next time, stay awake.